Perfect. Happy, well, this was supposed to be March break, right? My kids asked when March break was, and I was like, well, it's actually not March, it's in April. So happy, oh, St. Patty's Day, I think, right? I should know that, I guess. I don't know why I should know that. I think that's what people are posting. My buddy who lives downtown London, he's driving home from he's in medical practice. He's driving home and said Richmond was crazy, and it was exactly how it was when we were in university. I was like, were people wearing masks at least, hopefully? So whatever you're doing, thanks for tuning in. You know, if you're watching this live or you're watching it later, it's all good with me. Keep any questions, comments coming. I want to speak to two things today. This is one of the weeks where we only have one practice. So this session will probably be about 20 minutes or so. I've had a couple requests that we even practice a little more, or a little more, maybe, like I said, last time, start our practice. Someone really suggested that we do the grounding practice again because I really liked it. So let's start with that. Okay. So before we go into the teaching, let's just let yourself kind of find your posture, sitting, resting, sitting or resting. Again, you can lie down to do this. You can close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, totally cool. You can just kind of gaze down in front of you. And just be aware of sound. And you're like, what sound? Well, in the practice of meditation, we can observe sound in two ways. The first way, obviously, is outer. So the sounds, of my house, the sounds of maybe with my windows open, cars passing by, I might notice that. You might have humans in your house right now who are making sounds. Okay, so just taking these moments just to witness any sound that is in or happening around you. And then what I want you to do is I want you to notice any sound that's happening internally. So quite often that is in the form of self-talk. And again, you're just going to notice whenever your mind wanders off, we are not getting frustrated at the mind for wandering. We're not getting angry. We're just saying, hey, mind, come on back, right back to here, to this moment. And now what I want you to do is I want you just to give yourself permission to let your body just relax into your chair. So we're just starting, allowing your body just to relax. And again, noticing if your mind wanders off, we're noticing that, and we're welcoming to come back to the present moment and just letting your body relax. And then purposely breathing in through your nose. Let's do for the count of 4, breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, nice long deep breath out for 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Breathing back in for 1, 2, 3, 4. And then out for that 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I want you to do is I want you now to breathe in. I am grounded. Breathing in. I am grounded. And then that nice long deep breath out. I am calm. Good. And again, breathing in. I am grounded. That nice long deep breath out now. I am calm. Maybe you don't like that mantra, so it's like, cool, breathe in, notice that you're breathing in. Breathe out, notice that you're breathing out. If that mantra resonates with you, breathing in, I am grounded. Breathing out, I am calm. Breathing in, I am grounded. Breathing out, I am calm. And when you're ready, just let your eyes open. See, I would like to go over that, reminding yourself that the practice we just did there is not just meant, right? So let's use on my screen, Cass. It's not just meant so that she can use this when her eyes are closed. It's meant that so she can use it in life. So if she's dealing with a human who's maybe frustrating, you can do this. And then in real life, right? Like I was just talking before you all, I had a mother and the parents, and they, their kids are in their 20s, and the mother is saying she feels really helpless in a situation with her son. And she said, Mike, I was at the dinner table, he's in his 20s, and he's moved home because of COVID. And she said, I just feel like I want him to make the right choice. Like, I want him to make the right decision and the right choice. And I know I can't like make him make the right choice. So I feel helpless. And so I suggested in our previous session that she does this idea of breathing in and breathing out to just like kind of soften maybe her grip of how helpless, how it hurts to be helpless. Right. And she said, so Mike, she was like all excited. So I did that thing you suggested. I was at the dinner table and I'm like, and how'd it go? She's like, well, I just felt like I wasn't as like in my mind with things. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Right. This isn't about like, oh, like, Cass makes me frustrated. Not in real life. I'm just pulling her out. And she makes me frustrated. I'm not like, oh, I am so thankful for her making me frustrated and I proved all these things. That's like, that's BS. But in real time, if she makes me frustrated and I'm like, oh, you always do this, and then I come back at her, I'm probably going to say something or do something that isn't best for me or her or work or life. If maybe this is happening in your house environment. So the idea of developing a response is so I can go, wait, choose what to say. Instead of old me would do this. Bah, 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 bah. I wouldn't have that like pause. And I'm finding even as a parent, I was talking to this young guy last week, a young parent. He's a parent. He's in his, he has two really young 4-year-old and 2-year-old. And he said he got really frustrated and he raised his voice at his kids. And then he like left and got really upset and thought, oh, I'm such a bad dad. Like, why would I do that? And he then beat himself up for another day at least, right? Which I think a lot of us do. And I said to him, the next time you might still raise your voice, but if you choose to raise your voice versus the reaction of raising your voice is seen way differently in your mind. Sometimes my kids like need me to raise my voice, mainly my youngest, never really my oldest. But if Bo is running into the middle of the street and I'm like, Bo, come on, buddy. He's like, ah, I'm like, Bo, Daddy. He's like, oh, sometimes we have to do this. I don't like to do it. Sometimes I have to. See, when you can develop your ability to respond, you start looking at things differently. And these next 4 weeks, this is usually the hardest for people in the next 4 weeks because we're looking at how you can fill your cup up purposely and how you can be selfish. And you're like, what? It's okay to be selfish? Yes, it is. So last week I told you all that, my youngest son, Bo, we had his biannual checkup at Sick Kids, which is always very sobering going to Sick Kids. Okay. It always makes me very thankful for what I have because when you see what's in there and some of the stuff that's happening, I'm just like, ugh. So it's constantly for me, it's actually a day where I do a lot of practice because I feel like I have to kind of bubble up because it's emotionally intense. So when I was driving with my wife, I was telling her about one of the teachings I was doing about selfishness. And I was like, so honey, like just on our way to Toronto, I was like, so like, no BS, just what percent of the time do you think I'm like a good selfish? And she started laughing. She's like, what do you mean? What's a good selfish? I'm like, that I'm balancing work and life and then I'm like taking time for myself. But when I'm taking that time for myself, it doesn't affect you in a negative way. And she goes, oh, like 97% of the time you're a good selfish. And I'm like, when's the last one? She's like, oh, this, and rattled it off right away. Luckily, it was like 2 years ago, but it was like right there. And I said, and she's like, I like that idea of being good selfish because what I find, especially with women, and if you're a mother and if you work with people for a living, that's like the trifecta. But anyone on this call is used to giving out, right? Tell me I'm wrong, right? Like most people on this call are used to doing this. Like for work, just coming from the heart. And then you go home and it's like, oh, who else wants some? Right. And then maybe you have like a friend like, hey girl, like blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, no problem. Like I get multiple texts a week from friends like, hey man, how you doing? And I'm like, good, ... Hey, I just have this question. Like, I know it's coming because for like my male population, I'm like the one that most of my friends come to because of what I do for a living, obviously. Right. And how I am as a human, I think. So the chances are, if it happens to me, it probably happens to you, where you are someone that is going on all of the time, that has energy going out all of the time. So if that's the case, and I believe that's the case, and you're still holding on for dear life, amazing, and thank you. And two, what can I do to help best kind of develop a sense of selfishness that's okay to do. Right? You know, a lot of times the word selfishness has a very negative kind of undertone to it. And what my hope is that you're okay taking a time out and doing something for you. Like, I don't think anyone here would argue, like, if I spent 30 minutes just kind of like in and not being a parent, my kids were like doing stuff, but I was like here in preparation for this webinar. Because one, I was sick for 3 days, and if I'm not at 80%, I cancel my day. That's how I worked for the last 10 years. So I canceled all my appointments except for 3 today. So I felt that I could do this webinar appropriately. So I took an extra 30 minutes before this to kind of just sit and chill, and then so I could be on. And I don't think anyone's be like, well, that was stupid, Mike. Like, why are you taking care of yourself before you talk to us? We want all of it. Like, no one's going to do that. Because the reality is, if I fill my cup up, I feel I have more to give. And I know from previous life of me working in social work, it was never ending out, ever. So these next 4 weeks, make me the bad guy if you have to, you know, with your partner or with your children or your boss. Be like, listen, this mindful Mike guy, I'm like doing this program that he's talking to this camera every Wednesday night for half an hour. And he says, like, you know, to get the best results, I have to do this. Like, good, make me the bad guy. I literally don't care. Right? Like, make it an excuse so you can have these 5, 10, or 15 minutes daily of watering your plant in here. Because how often do we do that? Right? It's my deep belief that over the next 15 years, with all the data coming out about the importance of mental hygiene and a regular self-care practice, I honestly believe we'll look at people like we used to look at people in the 1500s, like, I can't believe they didn't brush their teeth. Right? We know it's good dental practice. We know it's good dental hygiene. It's the same thing with our mind. Train your mind to be nice to itself. So all of the next 2 weeks of practice are focusing inward, right? And in my experience, that's when people have the most resistance. They're like, well, how am I going to use this at work? I'm like, well, for filling up your cup, maybe you can be more present with your children. That's a win. Or I was talking to a dad today, and he's like, only after 2 weeks of giving tips about how to be present, he said, my wife's already started to notice some differences. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. She was like really impressed that I put my phone away when we watched a show. It's little things like that all the humans around us pick up. It's those little moments, right? So subtle changes of self-care make a significant impact, big picture. See, most people think that you have to have this like super Zen, chill time to meditate. Wrong. Like Cass, for example, has, I think, a little human flying around her. Am I right? Yep. A mid-sized human, a little one. Okay. So if Cass is like, well, the only time I can meditate is when my house is quiet. Well, this probably means when everyone's sleeping, which then she's probably tired. So what I like to do is that you can meditate in real time when the kids are running around the house. You don't need stillness to train your brain to be present. That's a myth. What we want to look at is what is best internally. So if you wake up or you're woken up by other humans in your house, you're probably not going to meditate right then and there. So if you want to set your clock 5 minutes earlier than you need to, that's an option. The younger your kids are, the harder it is to do, just by my experience. Maybe your kids are out of the house, you don't have any kids, cool, wake up 5 minutes early, start a practice there. That's realistic, right? Before you log on, or before you go on to help support somebody, or before you go to your next meeting, take 1 minute and ask yourself, how am I doing right now? That's it. And you're like, Mike, this is ridiculous. Do it and see. Right? I was working with a physician today, and I gave him some similar tips about self-care. He's like, this is brilliant. I'm like, no, it's super simple. But the simple ones are usually the hardest rules to follow. So if you resist looking inward, and I don't mean you need to tell me your deepest, darkest secret, or like every meditation is a breakthrough. It's not. It's more like, how am I doing right now? Noticing that I'm tired, noticing that I'm frustrated, noticing that I'm neutral, noticing that I'm happy. Cool. Next. And we're just asking ourselves, how are we doing? And that's what this practice first starts with. It's really, which we covered 3 weeks ago. We went lightly over it, but it's this, or 2 weeks ago, but it's the idea of self-compassion. And in order to fill up other people's cup, it's best served that you put your air mask on first. And I always used to hate when they'd say that. And I'm like, I heard that 1,000 times. But in mindfulness and in most practices, it's actually true, right? If you go like, then you're awake and alive to help other people. I realized that, especially when I was in my 20s, working in social work, I was so worried about what might happen that I was missing a lot of stuff that was happening. And I mean that also with like my loved ones. Like I was with them physically, somewhere else mentally. So this practice, it's, we'll do a short and sweet one. Like I said, my chat will probably only be like 20 or so minutes today. Of course, if there's any questions, we can do that. But let's get into the practice of self-compassion, okay? Beautiful. So what I'd like you to do is first just kind of find that comfortable position. And if you're like, Mike, I'm already sitting down. Well, just try to even elongate your spine and see what that does for you. Right? So what I want you to do is I want you now just to take a second and just do a brief scan and ask yourself right now, how am I doing physically? Just a brief little scan. How am I doing physically? And then what we do is we do a brief scan of what is my emotional experience, right? What is my emotional experience? So again, just a little check-in. We are not trying to say, oh, I feel tired or I feel, angry or upset. And how can I change that? We're just asking what's happening. And then a brief little check-in. What is my mental experience? Are you present? Are you in the future? Are you in the past? So again, we're just noticing, where's the mind going? Oh, let's welcome it back. Oh, where's the mind going? Oh, let's welcome it back. And what I want you to do is I want you just to take this moment to acknowledge how you actually do care and cherish for your own well-being. So maybe you have judgments that come up right away. Like, well, you ate that yesterday. Then notice those as judgments. All I want you to do is look at perhaps why you're on the phone right now or on your computer or tablet right now. And I want you to ask yourself, do you want to be in the best shape of your life physically, or do you want to be mentally well? Do you want to be physically well? You're probably going to get some answers of yes. Now, maybe you might have some judgments on those. But what I want you to do is just ask yourself in this moment, do I love myself, or do you love yourself? So we're just putting that out there and we're just seeing how that comes up. So for me, when I ask myself, do I love myself? To me, I feel like a yes in my heart. You're like, what does that even mean? Well, I feel the answer yes, and I actually feel like a little energy in my heart center. Now, for the first while when I practiced this, I was like searching and searching, and I thought, oh, maybe I do, or maybe I'm just thinking I do. What I want you to do is put your hand on your heart center. Put your hand on your heart center, and I want you just to purposely take a deep breath in, and then that long, deep breath out the mouth. Good. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think of somebody who you love, who's easy to love. Okay, somebody who you love, who's just easy to love. So my oldest is coming to mind. For whatever reason, I'm not asking, oh, why isn't my youngest coming to mind? Or why isn't my wife? It's just whatever comes forward. Don't judge it. Let it come forward. And I want you to take another deep breath in, thinking of that love you have for that person. And then breathing out. Good. And then what I want you to do is I would like you to just gently think of any frustration or suffering that they've incurred or that maybe they're currently experiencing. And it could be something just very little, or it might be something that's, impacted your life as well. But whatever comes to mind, let it come forward. And I want you to just see how your heart's natural reaction is to just kind of extend out and meet them. So when you think of their suffering, the heart just goes, oh, let me kind of extend to you. And all I want you to say to yourself in your mind, holding them in your heart, just say to yourself, may you be held in this compassion. May you be loved. May you be healthy. May you be happy. And may you be at peace. So you're wishing them well. And again, you can do this again. You can breathe in, breathe out. I like to use that as like a reset, thinking of their suffering. I see my heart kind of hurt for them or go out to them. And you gently say again, may you be held in this compassion. May you be loved and felt love. May you be healthy and happy. And may you be at peace. Beautiful. And then what I want you to do is I want you now just to look inward again and think about how you do care and cherish for your own well-being. So just bring that forward. How you do care and cherish for your own well-being. So as you're holding yourself, I want you just to think of some suffering that you've experienced, or maybe some worry that you've experienced. And just like you're there for other people in your life, not only at your work, but in your personal life, maybe your family, your friends, I want you to hold yourself in the same way. So if this was someone that you loved, and this is someone that you cared for deeply, and this is someone that you thought, hey, they could really use this, or hey, they really need a hug, or they really need me just to hear them, just hold yourself in that way. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and just gently say to yourself, may I be held in this field of compassion. May I be loved and felt loved. May I be healthy and happy. May I be at peace. And again, if you find that challenging, it's totally fine. What I typically do is then I imagine holding my sons as if they're holding the same frustration or anger or hurt. Or you can imagine holding a younger version of yourself. There's a couple ways of doing this. But again, whatever resonates with you, breathing in, noticing the breath coming in, breathing out, noticing the breath going out. And then say again, may I be held in this field of compassion. May I be loved and felt loved. May I be healthy and happy. And may I be at peace. So just taking another breath in. And when you feel ready, just breathing out. And again, we're not judging ourselves. We're not angry or frustrated. Breathing in, noticing you're breathing in. Breathing out, notice that you're breathing out. And just thanking yourself for not only taking these 5 or 6 minutes to do this practice, but thanking yourself to continue to show up and to plant this seed of wellness. So when you're ready, very slowly and gently, just allowing your eyes to open as you bring back this sense that we just cultivated. Beautiful. So for some people, that's hard. You know, and I got a couple of messages about self-compassion and you know, that it people got emotional during it. That's fine. That's a part of the deal, right? A lot of the time we realize like, wow, I do a lot for other people. And what do I do for me? Right? So if that's part of your deal, that's okay. And if you're like, Mike, that's not my life, cool, totally fine. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay. Not every single talk's going to resonate with every single person watching. I get it. Right. But for me and the work that you're doing, if you can be selfish and give yourself this week to be selfish and say, no, I'm doing this like thing that this mindful Mike guy said, like, again, make me the bad guy. It's all good. Okay. But start with little practices of self-care. Please. I promise. I used to work from the other way. I've just burned out. And this way it's way more fun. Right. It doesn't mean I don't get angry or frustrated. I just don't get as angry or as frustrated. And I find I can work with that stuff in a healthier way. Okay. So please keep any of the questions or comments coming. You know, I appreciate any of the questions or feedback, because again, I like to kind of shape the practices to who's watching. And if you really have a say, and I mean that, if you're like, hey, Mike, I really enjoy this kind of information, or can you talk to this, or some of the people I'm working with love to hear about this, I'll make it happen, right? I will totally shift it, or at least a segment of our chat to kind of fit what you need, okay? So if there's no questions, comments, or concerns, well, if there is, yell them out now or put them in the text. But this group has been sending them via email mostly. So, but again, if you have a question ever, please feel free to message me live or after if you're watching this after. Okay, everybody? So I will send the link out. It is the same. Oh, I see. I love this. This is so helpful, Mike. Oh, let me see. Oh, thank you. Thanks for showing up. So we're done the cultivating calm part. We are now moving into the next stage, which is fill up your cup with self-compassion. All right. I know it's a mouthful, but it just felt right that was the title. Okay. So do that, right? Every day. And if then you forget, don't do it twice the next day. Just do it the next day. All right. That's realistically, if I talk to you next week and you've done 4 practices for filling up your cup, that is a win in the meditation world. Okay. So please keep showing up. Thanks for the work that you do. Thank you. and just keep me posted, everybody. Okay. Have a beautiful night.